Hi, it's Maru. I'm gonna be doing a quick little demo on BiasFX 2. I actually did a demo on BiasFX 1 a while back, and it's what I use for my guitar tones on my EP and just what I've been using to play guitar here at home. Naturally, I wanted to check out the BiasFX 2 because it has pretty much a redesigned sound engine, way more amps, pedals, and just tone making options. It also has really cool features like guitar match and the looper feature. So I'm just gonna create a tone from scratch and then go over the guitar match feature and play with the looper a little bit. So I hope it's useful, and yeah, let's check it out. So the first thing we want to do is open BiasFX 2. I have it here as an insert on my Pro Tools session on my guitar track. You can also use BiasFX as a standalone version, not necessarily in a DAW, but that's what I typically do. I'm going to go ahead and open BiasFX 2. The first thing we see is a whole bunch of categories here: pop, blues, rock, metal, insane, alternative, bass and acoustic presets that are kind of just pre-made tones by BiasFX that combine different heads and cabs and effects combination to create a very specific kind of tone. In the pop category, we already see a whole bunch of presets to choose from. And when we create a tone from scratch, we're going to just select one of these pre-existing tones and kind of wipe it clean and start with a clean slate. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick this Strat in London one. And that will bring up this specific tone, which already has a bunch of effects and an amp and a cab in the signal chain. So before wiping it clean, let's just see what it sounds like. So yeah, I just want to create a basic clean tone, like a nice sparkly clean tone from scratch. So what we can do is either X out all of these effects by just cleaning them up, or we can just hit the clear button here, which will kind of give us a clean slate, and it'll just leave like a basic amp and head and a noise gate as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just X out of the noise gate, because why not? And then it starts out with just an amp and a head. So if I want to change my head, all I do is double click on it, and that brings up this window with all of our head and cab combinations, which are organized in different categories. So we have our low gain heads and cab combos, we have crunch, it's like 27 just in the crunch category. We have high gain combinations, 34 of them. Same thing with acoustic and bass. So since I'm going for like a nice full clean tone, I'm gonna start with the low gain combos. So I'm gonna do this dumble clean amp and head. So that gives me the 67 dumble clean amp and the green 25 cab. So I can immediately start tweaking all the different parameters on this amp and see how it sounds. So if I go to my cab, I can also choose the different mic position as well as the different microphones to mic it with. So we have a classic SM57, then a 421, Royer 121, and a C414. I'm just going to stick to the 57 and kind of mess with the placement a little bit. So that sounds, right off the bat, we're getting like a pretty decent, full sounding, clean tone. Something I really like about BiasFX is the dual routing function, meaning that if I hit here dual routing, it will split my signal in two and kind of give me a whole nother tone option to work with. So I can literally just select another amp and head entirely, and then using the mixer, I can mix my initial head and cab combination with a secondary one and kind of create a more customized tone. So whenever you hit dual routing down here, it immediately adds a splitter and a mixer to your signal chain. So it's just splitting the signal, and then you can choose how much of each combination you want to kind of create that tone you're looking for. So for my second amp here, right now it just kind of duplicated what I had, so it gave me another dumble clean and a green 25 cab. But let's say I want a different sounding amp, right? I want to kind of mix two different combinations. So I'm going to go to the crunch category, and again, there's all these heads and cabs to choose from. I'm just going to go ahead with the first one. the plexiglass. So it added the plexiglass and a green 25S cab to my chain. And then I can just tweak these parameters as well. So let's see how this is sounding. So we have a basic clean tone going on. Again, you can spend more time trying to get exactly what you're going for. Okay, so we have now our amps and our head set up in dual routing. So now we can start adding effects, which is the fun part in my opinion. So to add an effect, you simply hit the add button here, which will bring up this window, and all your effects are organized into noise gate, compressor category, pitch filter, boost, drive. You got your distortion, your EQ, modulation, then delay and reverb pedals and effects. Something I should mention is I'm using BiasFX Elite, so there's a lot of options in each category. I believe the standard version and the pro version might have a few less options, but really it's still a lot of options. You're still gonna have option paralysis, probably trying to figure out which one is the best sounding effect. So I'm just gonna start with the compressor. Gonna go with this blue compressor here, and you can just drag it to basically anywhere in your signal chain. I just put it at the very front, so you can add it pre-amplifier or post-amp in your signal chain. So I have my compressor here, and I'm just gonna make a few tweaks real quick. Alright, so now that we have our compressor, I'm gonna go ahead and add a boost. So I'm gonna grab this booster over here and put it right after my compressor. So I don't know if you can hear that in the recording, but we are getting a little bit of digital noise just from adding stuff to our chain. We'll correct that with a noise gate. For now, I'm just gonna make some changes to my boosts. So I think we're getting a pretty decent sounding clean tone. Kind of nice and sparkly and very clean sounding, but with a little bit of body as well, which is good. Alright, so again, I'm just kind of just making these adjustments on the fly. You can really take your time with each parameter and spend a whole day tweaking your tone if you want. The next thing I'm going to add is a noise gate, so we can get rid of a little bit of that noise we're getting. So I'm going to head and add this. We can tweak the threshold a little bit as well as the sensitivity. So cool, we have all our effects in the front of our chain. Now we can go ahead and add some time-based effects like delay and reverb. And we're going to be adding those at the end. So after our amp, we have our digital reverb here. So I actually really like to mess with this ambient reverb too, even if you don't want it in your chain because it sounds very particular. You can still experiment with its unique sound if you want to ever add it as a layer for production purposes in your song or whatever it is. It sounds really cool. Yeah, so that's just an example of something you can use just for fun or for specific purposes. For now, I'm just gonna go with like a regular reverb here. Gonna set it to Hall, and then you can increase it so we get a nice like. And then we can also go ahead and add some delay. The nice thing about this is that you can always turn the effect off. So you might not want delay all the time, so you can always bring it back on when you do want it, and then just leave it on your chain but turned off when you don't really have a need for it. So yeah, we have our basic clean tone in BiasFX. So if I like this, I can just go ahead and save it as new. If we hit overwrite, we're gonna lose this a Stratton London preset, so I'd rather keep it because you never know. So you can just save it as a new tone. And then hit select a bank where to save it to, and then hit OK, and we have our first clean tone in BiasFX.